COVID-19 and the coronavirus has impacted on huge swathes of the sports broadcasting community. In most cases, it's been indirectly through the postponement of sporting events. In some cases, it's been much closer to home. One of those companies is Eurovision Services, part of the EBU. Earlier today, I caught up with its chief executive, Marco Tinnirello, to find out more. I started off by asking him if he felt his company was prepared for a crisis like this.
Hi, Will. Well, firstly, I think no organisation in the world can say they were kind of foreseeing this and were ready for it. But look, we're a service provider. We provide technical broadcast services, and having resilient infrastructure is just part of our DNA and what we do day to day. So in terms of service to customers, we were pretty well prepared. We've got a backup site in another part of Switzerland, and we've got facilities around the world that can back each other up. Also, in addition to that, what's really helped us is about a year ago, we put in place a crisis management process and a dedicated crisis management team. And we actually did a rehearsal for the last Eurovision, the Eurovision Song Contest last year. And as a consequence of that, we did a full day's rehearsal. And that really helped us because it really flushed out how you run a crisis management team. And so irrespective of what the crisis is, you've got over the hurdle of how you actually organise yourselves to be able to deal with it. And I have to say that that's put us in great shape. And I'm very grateful for the effort that we put in because it really helped us out in dealing with this.
Presumably, like all of us, you saw the reports coming from China and other parts of the world. Did you expect this to have such a significant impact on the company and on the industry, in fact, on all of us?
Well, yeah, so we certainly saw this coming because we have offices in Beijing and staff in Beijing and similarly in Singapore. So as an organisation, we've been dealing with this kind of mid to late January, where our Beijing and Singapore team have been impacted by this. They've been working from home for quite some time. They had government kind of restrictions, not just in Wuhan, but actually throughout the whole of China, including Beijing and indeed into Singapore. So yeah, we've seen this coming for a while. Similarly, kind of if you've been following a lot of what's been in the press, particularly in the kind of the business programming of the impact in the region, and I think we've had some events that were cancelled in the region pretty early on. Actually, we got a pretty early sight that this could be a big thing for us. I think what we and perhaps many organisations didn't anticipate is the rate and just how much this was going to spread globally and how government were going to have to react, and as a consequence, the number of events and just general movement of people that was going to be restricted. That was difficult to have predicted, but yeah, we had early indication of this from the team dealing with it in Asia.
Now, many companies and people have been impacted both directly and indirectly, but not everyone has been as affected as directly as your company. Tell us what happened.
It might sound like I'm saying this with pride. It's not with pride, but we were one of the first cases of tested positive in Geneva. And look, so that as an something that happens within an organisation is a pretty big moment and a pretty big event. In fact, it was the confirmation of an employee testing positive that really triggered our crisis management. So what happened was, just based where we are in Geneva, we have a lot of international workers. We have a huge variation of cultures who work at the facility in Geneva. And we had a gentleman who had travelled to Milan and travelled back. When we kind of learnt of that on the Monday, Tuesday, we said, you know what, anyone coming back from China or anyone coming back from Northern Italy, just a smart move to send them work from home just as a precaution. That turned out to be a good idea because later on in the week, this gentleman started to feel ill. We went to the hospital, tested positive. We were case number 2 in Geneva and one of the first in the whole of Switzerland. And that comes with some pros and cons. Number one, you don't really know what to expect because it's uncharted territory. The flip side is the authorities and the medical teams in Geneva at the time weren't overloaded at that point. So we got quite good medical attention. We had professionals come to site. And as a consequence of that, I think sending everybody home, as we did at the end of February, and sending the person home before symptoms arrived were two things that, again, really helped us. And I think one of the key learnings that we're experiencing as we go through this is, look, to not take a decision is much more dangerous than taking a decision without facts. It's okay to take a decision, maybe it's not quite right, and you adapt. Being paralysed and not deciding to do something is a dangerous way to proceed through this, is our finding.
Mm. You mentioned sending staff home, but what else have you put in place to keep staff safe, but also to ensure business continuity?
Yeah, so a few things that trigger once you're in this situation. First of all, we immediately sent all of those who we could sensibly send home to work from home, and that's been in place since the end of February. There are some core team and core functions that have to remain on site and that you want to remain on site. And as a consequence of that, you really want to ring fence and protect those staff who, are obliged to come in and continue the services. As a consequence of that, we've completely locked down the office. We've got a very restricted number of staff who can come in. We've separated teams so that we're not intermingling, and that goes all the way from separating kitchen and rest areas and toilet areas and so forth, really separating those out. Over and above that, we've also implemented staff as a precaution at our DR sites, so they're fully up and ready and operational. In the event anything happened, they could take over. We've similarly done that with the other operations across the globe as well. And then one final thing, we're very used to deploying teams to events. That's kind of what we do. So configuring equipment, boxing up and shipping it out is kind of part of what we do day in, day out. And so we kind of use that expertise and we leveraged our skill set. We pre-packaged a load of boxes and kits. We've sent that home with some of our operational team, and actually we operate some of our services from a distributed network from across the globe. And I've got to say, it's working really well. It comes with the headache of the overhead of communication, but I've got to say it's working fantastically, and it's been a great experience, and we're fortunate to be able to have that kind of skill set and flexibility in the workforce.
Definitely. People are often the most inflexible. Technology is often more flexible than people, but how are your staff coping with, and your customers as well, with the new way of working?
Yeah, so look, I think there are multiple angles to this question, actually. Number one is just, given the scale of what's going on globally, irrespective of who you are and what you do, this has an impact on you. And I think it's very important as an organisation, but just generally, that we recognise that some people really struggle with this kind of scale of epidemic. It's worrying and it's scary. And we've certainly kind of seen some of that in the organisation. Similarly, just in terms of how the organisation has coped with flexing and adapting to working from home, as you say, the technology part, we're a Microsoft house. We've got a lot of online tools anyway. We've been migrating to software-based technologies. That's the easy bit. But people have actually been brilliant in terms of how they've adapted to working from home. They really have stepped up in flexibility. Where you start to get some interesting dynamics is, people have lives, it turns out, outside of work. They have kids. They sometimes live on their own. They're in small apartments. They've got elderly parents. I mean, you name it. Turns out we've hired pretty normal people with normal lives, but there's huge implications from all of that. So we've implemented quite a lot of things like, look, if you've got kids and they're at home, work flexibly. Let's work on what the priorities are. And the way that the team has adapted, I have to say, is absolutely fantastic. And I don't think that's a Eurovision Services thing. I'm seeing it across suppliers and customers. People are just being very accommodating because of the situation to a new way of working. And I'm very proud with kind of the whole of the ES organisation, how everyone's stood up and gone, okay, here's what it is. Let's work through this and let's be adaptive.
It's great to hear.
In terms of customers, to answer that for you, Will, look, I mean, it's too early to say kind of where all of this unfolds, but in terms of the services we provide to them, it's kind of business as usual. What we're actually seeing, as you all know, is a lot of events and sporting events, which we obviously carry a lot of on the network, are being postponed, are being held back. And so what we're seeing is a huge increase of volume of work over and above kind of organising these things. Now you have to manage things moving, dates changing, clashes of different events, resource planning. There's just a doubling of work. And right now, we and our customers and our suppliers are just in that period of working like crazy to work through this stuff, to work out, so how do we organise ourselves to adapt?
So that's the sort of the future. How are those gaps being filled right now, either by yourselves or by your customers?
Well, look, there's no doubting it. The lack of live sporting events at the moment is causing federations and broadcasters challenges. And there are, what would be busy schedules that are currently very empty. That said, our customers, broadcasters and federations alike are being very innovative. They've got actually some fantastic stories in past archived material, material that when you watch it as a sports fan still sends a tingle down your back. So they've got some fantastic backlog. and back catalogue of material, and they're using kind of us to help try and get that content out to customers. We're doing a lot of work with the EBU and members at the moment, just trying to work out how we get some of those stories and allow broadcasters to share those materials so that sports fans can still get their hit and see some of the past great sporting moments. And so we're seeing a lot of that. Inevitably, and they've got to do that, of course, as I mentioned, over and above the day job of trying to reorganise and keep those events that are postponed that are still going to come, to actually dedicate some time to reorganising those as well. So, thanks.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, once this is over, do you feel that the experience and what we've learned from it will change the way either Eurovision Services or even the sports broadcasting sector in general works?
Well, look, Will, I think it's pretty early. I think everyone wants this to be over tomorrow, but the truth of the matter is we've got some way to go, and the number of cases and deaths are just going up, and that's a pretty terrifying situation. So right here, right now, I think what we're trying to do is just manage the situation and get through this period by managing the company as effectively as we can. And so maybe a bit early to kind of predict what this really does for the industry, but just an early observation. So number one, some key learnings: being flexible and adaptive and making quick decisions is, I think, the new norm. And actually our media industry has been going through this, I would argue, for quite some time anyway. Disruptive technologies such as kind of the on-demand, the IP and mobile delivered video services that we've seen growing have been disruptive anyway. And so as an industry, I think we've been grappling with, okay, the new norm is changing. We've got to be adaptive and flexible. I mean, it's at the heart of why we have been migrating to an IP backbone and software delivered services as much as possible, not for any other reason than it gives you that flexibility. And I think if you fast forward here, who knows what the future holds, but I think all of us will be much more mindful of anything can happen. And so having an infrastructure and having workflows and relationships with suppliers and customers that are much more adaptive, I think we're going to see that. But as I say, I think we've already experienced that as an industry. We've certainly seen it in Eurovision Services. And so I think everybody get used to it. Change is the new norm. No real surprises there. Look, with that, it's worrying and it's tough times, but inevitably in that situation, opportunities arise. And I think, a good organisation takes the right steps to be preventative in terms of impact, but also thinks forward and inevitably to say, well, what does this mean for us as a business in terms of new things that we can do? And so that's what we're focusing on.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for your time. Please stay safe. Speak again soon.
You too. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.